Around 1 in 6 couples in Singapore are facing fertility issues, according to the latest data. Some couples who opt for in-vitro fertilization or IVF are hoping for wider support on what can be a physically and mentally challenging journey. Chloe Teo finds out more on this next part of CNA's week-long series on marriage and parenthood.
The chatter of these 3 young ones is the sweet sound of a long-awaited dream for these parents. Rafida Jalil and Mimram Mahmood first noticed something was amiss years ago when they failed to conceive after 6 months of trying. A check-in with a fertility doctor led to their first round of in-vitro fertilization, or IVF.
I think growing up in Singapore, usually you put X amount of effort, then you get this result. But then with IVF, you're suddenly like, okay, no matter what you do, the results is not confirmed. And the first cycle was, we were very lucky that it was very smooth. It was like a textbook IVF. And then we took a break for about 2 years. So when Mika, our first son, was about 2 or 3, we decided, okay, let's do another round because we always wanted more kids, not just 1 kid. So that's when we realized, oh, it's actually not that easy.
This time, the couple had to cope with work, a toddler at home, and a miscarriage along the way. They took the challenges in their stride and finally welcomed a double bundle of joy. Now, they hope more people are aware of the benefits of early fertility health checks.
There is just not enough education that is in schools or in universities that make people aware of what is the process actually having kids and the benefits of it, but also what's the process to get to that point of having a kid. I think there is very little information about the different procedures available.
While some couples go to government hospitals for IVF treatments, others opt for private clinics, hoping for a speedier process in an age-sensitive issue. But one IVF parent says the hefty costs for treatments at private clinics can add on to an already heavy emotional load.
Financially, if you are choosing the private route, I think the maximum subsidy is actually quite limited. And the subsidy that we are talking about is actually just a portion of the money is actually deducted from our MediSave. So MediSave is still our money. So ultimately, there's no subsidy if you are going for the private route. And because for this particular journey, there's no guaranteed success.
She adds that couples trying for a second child often have fewer subsidies left and may need more support. For another mother, she says a gap remains in the lack of open conversations around what is an increasingly common struggle.
In Singapore, everybody works long hours. So if we are able to have that time to actually sit down with someone who's gone through it all, that would be great. If at that time had someone who is in my position who have gone through all that research, that would be great. Someone to so-called mentor me through the process, not so much telling me what to do, but essentially guiding me, showing me the options.
Tohira believes breaking this taboo can encourage more knowledge sharing and ultimately lead to more timely treatments.
Fertility challenges are becoming more common in Singapore, yet experts say both medical awareness and social support have yet to keep pace. Chloe Teo finds out what more can be done to support couples.
A common misconception about infertility is that it's all about the woman. In reality, it's about the men too. Myths like this persist, which is why medical experts are pushing to raise awareness earlier and more widely.
Knowledge to them is very important. They must, and with the knowledge, they can empower them to plot their journey through fertility, whether they want to start immediately, 6 months later, 1 year later, or maybe they said, okay, we just have to save some money to go for treatment.
Couples seeking help with fertility issues will go through several tests to find out what might be the underlying issues. From there, the type of treatment will depend on the diagnosis. It can range from simple timing of intercourse to improve the chances of conception to more complicated procedures.
We also have patients who have got severe disease and which we may have to go on to things like assisted reproduction. Then there is also an intermediate group, or not so severe patients. You know, they might want to try things like intrauterine insemination, and so that we can enhance their fertility rates. And of course, if all methods all fail, then no choice. They may have to go on to more advanced technology.
One widely known method is in-vitro fertilization, or IVF, in which the egg is fertilized by the sperm in a lab. Two groups of patients are commonly recommended for this: those who have exhausted other options as well as older couples. But it can be costly in more ways than one.
I think most couples do not know the cost of it, and the trauma, psychological trauma and the emotional stress that they actually have to go through in vitro fertilization. They just come and say, okay, I do IVF, but they must also be realistic that not all cases will get pregnant, and it depends on the underlying medical problems that they have.
Singaporean couples can receive up to 75% co-funding for a maximum of 6 assisted reproduction cycles, with women generally needing to be below 40 to qualify. Even so, a single IVF cycle can cost between $15,000 to $18,000 before subsidies. Financial and physical stresses aside, mental health is also a concern.
The woman who's going through the injections or the woman who have lost her baby can have these very significant feelings. Of course, the men can as well, and usually do. And unfortunately, sometimes the men will say, I can't have these feelings, right? I need to support my wife. But those feelings then get suppressed. So the successful couples I've seen actually hold space for each other.
She warns that support is key to prevent such couples from breaking down, or worse, breaking up.
So that will mean that, including women's mental health, into integrating that into infertility policies. So some of what I think can be helpful would be, for example, routine checks. For couples who are going through this journey, routine mental health checks, distress screening for them, more concerns about, how they're actually functioning as a couple. So not just necessarily about the process and the journey.
She says this will require wider systemic change, with insurers and healthcare providers also playing a role.